My father threw me out on Thanksgiving night. He called me a disgrace and told me I was no longer his daughter. But what he didn't know was that I was worth $20 million, and for years, I had been the one secretly saving his perfect little world. My name is Madison Clark. I'm a 30-year-old single mom. And this is the story of the Thanksgiving night that changed everything. The Clark mansion glowed with golden lights. The table stretched across the dining room, lined with silver cutlery, crystal glasses, and the weight of silence I knew all too well. Laughter filled the room. Glasses clinked. Stories flowed. Everyone smiled, except me. I sat at the far end. Beside me was my little girl, Olivia, just 5 years old. She wore her favorite red dress. She swung her legs under the chair. She tried to smile. And I prayed, God, I prayed, that maybe this year they'd finally accept us. But then, a crash, glass shattering against the marble floor. The family's prized crystal bowl. Broken. All eyes turned. And they didn't look at the bowl. They looked at Olivia. Her small hands trembled. Her lips quivered. I didn't mean to, she whispered. But my father's fury was already burning. He rose from his chair. His voice thundered through the hall. Enough, Madison. You've been nothing but a disgrace. And that child, he pointed straight at Olivia. She doesn't belong here, not at this table, not in this family. Get out, both of you, tonight. Silence. My mother stared at her lap. Jonathan said nothing. Caroline smirked, and Olivia. She broke into sobs, her tiny body shaking as she clung to me. Something inside me shattered. But at the same time, something else woke up. That night, I walked out of the Clark mansion, into the freezing November air. The heavy oak door slammed shut behind me, like a final judgment. But here's what none of them knew. The so-called failure they had just cast out was secretly worth $20 million. And for years, I had been the one quietly saving this family from ruin. That night, they thought they broke me. But the truth, that night, they set me free. When I left that night, memories came rushing back. Memories of growing up in the Clark mansion. From the outside, it looked like perfection. Chandeliers glittered. Marble floors shined. Guests whispered about our perfect family. But inside, it was cold. So cold. My father, William Clark, a banker obsessed with reputation. My mother, Margaret, the flawless wife, always smiling, never stepping out of line. My brother, Jonathan, the golden boy, Harvard, football, the future of the Clark name. My sister, Caroline, beautiful, polished. Every little thing she did was celebrated. And then there was me, Madison, the misfit, the girl who never fit into the family portrait. I didn't care about cocktail parties. I didn't care about social status. I cared about computers, about code. When I was 13, I built my first website in the garage. My hands were covered in grease, but my eyes sparkled with excitement. To me, it was magic. To them, it was shame. I still remember the night I was 16. We were all in the living room. Jonathan had just gotten into Harvard. Caroline won another debate trophy. My father raised his glass, proud. Then he turned to me, his voice sharp like a blade. And you, Madison? What have you done to make this family proud? I froze. I wanted to tell him about the website, about the hundreds of kids at school who used it. But the look in his eyes told me everything. He didn't care. He never would. So I stayed silent, and that's when I learned, in the Clark family, silence was safer than honesty. Our house looked like a palace, but to me, it was a prison. I wanted love. I wanted to be seen. But in that house, love always came with conditions. And no matter how much they rejected me, a part of me still longed for their approval. I was 21. My last year at MIT, when my whole life changed, nights spent in the lab, coding until sunrise, driven by nothing but coffee, and determination. For the first time, I felt like I was carving my own path. A path away from the Clark mansion. A path that was mine. And then, 2 pink lines. I stared at that pregnancy test, my hands shaking, my chest collapsing in on itself. I'm pregnant. The words felt unreal. The father was Jack Miller, not from money, not from reputation. Just a boy from Boston, who made me feel free. For once in my life, I wasn't the disgrace. I was just Madison. But when I told Jack, everything changed. His smile disappeared. Panic took over his face. Madison, we're too young. I can't do this. I'm not ready to be a dad. I begged. Jack, please, I can't go through this alone. But within a week, he was gone, vanished. And I thought that had to be the worst of it. I was wrong. The night I told my parents was the night they buried me alive. We sat around the long dining table. My hands trembled as I whispered the truth. Silence, heavy, suffocating. Then, my father stood. His chair scraped across the marble. His voice exploded like thunder. A child? Out of wedlock. With some boy who can't even buy dinner. Do you have any idea what this will do to our family name? My mother clutched her pearls. Jonathan looked away. Caroline smirked. And then, the knife. Abort it, my father said, or you are no daughter of mine. My breath caught. Tears filled my eyes. But my voice, weak as it was, found the strength to say, no, this is my child, and I'm keeping it. His fist slammed the table. Glass shattered. Then you are dead to me. Those words cut deeper than any blade. That night, I packed my bags. Pregnant, alone, terrified. But inside me, a tiny heartbeat whispered, keep going. I worked 2 jobs, waitress by day, freelance coder by night. My body ached. My bank account was empty. But every kick inside my belly reminded me I couldn't give up. And when Olivia was born, fragile, perfect, mine, I held her to my chest and cried harder than I ever had before. In that moment, I swore, we will survive. We will thrive. No matter what it takes. That vow was the fire that would one day build an empire. When Olivia was still a toddler, I learned how to live on almost no sleep. By day, I wore an apron at a diner. By night, after I tucked Olivia into bed, I opened my laptop and I coded. At first, it was survival, just enough to pay the bills. But line by line, night after night, that code became something bigger. A software tool. Simple. Practical. A way for small businesses to manage their inventory. I didn't have investors. I didn't have connections. All I had was grit and a little girl counting on me. In 2015, I launched it. My own company. For months I lived on instant noodles, skipped rent, just to keep the servers alive. And then, a miracle. A small tech blog picked up my story. Then another. Within a year, my software was in hundreds of stores. And 3 years later, I sold it. $20 million. I remember staring at the wire transfer on my screen. Sitting in our cramped apartment. Olivia asleep in the next room. Me, the so-called disgrace, had built something worth more than all my brother's trophies combined. But instead of celebrating, I cried. Because I couldn't tell them. If I walked back into the Clark mansion, they'd call it luck. Or worse, they'd try to claim it as their own. So I stayed silent. I kept living small, driving an old Honda, wearing secondhand clothes, letting the world think I was still barely getting by. But behind the curtain, I became their lifeline. The mystery mortgage payments that saved my parents' house, that was me. The seed money that kept Jonathan's investment firm afloat, me. Caroline's kids' private school tuition, also me. They never asked, they just assumed fate smiled on them. And still, they mocked me, dismissed me, treated me like a stain on the family name. Every time my father raised a glass to Jonathan's success, I burned inside. Every time my mother bragged about Caroline's perfect life, my stomach turned. The cruelest irony? The woman they called a failure was the only reason their world hadn't collapsed. And yet, I said nothing. Because deep down, I still hoped that one day they'd finally see me, not as their shame, but as their daughter. Thanksgiving, the holiday of gratitude, the holiday of family. For me, it became the night everything broke. The Clark mansion glowed with golden light. The table stretched across the dining room. Silver cutlery, crystal glasses, the heirloom bowl at the center. I told myself, maybe this year would be different. I dressed Olivia in her favorite red dress. She smiled nervously. And I prayed that just once, they'd accept us. For an hour, it almost felt normal. Jonathan bragged about his fund. Caroline showed pictures of her children. My mother smiled like the perfect hostess. I sat quietly, cutting Olivia's turkey into tiny bites. Then, it happened. A sleeve brushed the crystal bowl. It tipped. It fell. It shattered. The sound sliced through the room. Olivia gasped, her eyes wide. I didn't mean to, she whispered. But all eyes turned to her. And then, to me, my father's chair scraped back. He rose to his feet. His voice shook the walls. Unbelievable. Even now, you bring nothing but disgrace into this house, Madison. I opened my mouth. I tried to speak. But his fingers stabbed the air at Olivia. And that child, she doesn't belong here. Not at this table. Not in this family. Get out, both of you, tonight. Silence. My mother lowered her gaze. Jonathan clenched his jaw, but said nothing. Caroline smirked. And Olivia, she broke. Her tiny body shook as she clung to me, sobbing. Something inside me cracked wide open. I stood. The chair screeched across the floor. My voice, shaking, but louder than I had ever dared, rose. All these years, you called me a failure, an embarrassment, a shame. But do you know what's truly shameful? A father who can't see the worth of his own daughter. A family who lives off the sacrifices of the one they despise. My father's face turned crimson. How dare you? No, I shouted. Tears blurred my vision. How dare you? You think Jonathan's business survived on his brilliance. You think Caroline's perfect life paid for itself. You think this house stood because of your reputation. You have no idea. Because the only reason this family hasn't collapsed is me. Gasps. Utensils clattered. For a heartbeat, I wanted to scream the whole truth. The millions. The years of secret support. But then, I looked at Olivia. Her cheeks wet with tears. Her eyes begging me to take her away. And I knew. They didn't deserve the truth. Not tonight. So I swallowed the words. I took her hand. And I walked. Out of the dining room. Out of the mansion. Into the freezing November night. Behind us, the heavy oak door slammed shut. It didn't sound like rejection anymore. It sounded like freedom. The night we left the Clark mansion. The cold cut through my skin. Olivia's little hand squeezed mine. Her sobs still echoed in my ears. For days, I felt empty, anger, shame, and a strange quiet relief. I realized something. I had spent my whole life begging for their approval, sacrificing in silence, holding them up while they tore me down. But after that night, I finally understood. I didn't need them anymore, and neither did Olivia. So I made the decision. I called my lawyer. One by one. I shut down every secret channel of money. No more mortgage payments. No more lifelines for Jonathan's investments. No more tuition checks for Caroline's kids. The phone calls came fast. Jonathan, panicked. Madison, there's a problem with the funding. My mother, her voice trembling. There must be a mistake with the bank. My father, furious. You ungrateful girl, do you know what you've done? And for the first time in my life, I hung up. I didn't owe them anymore. That same month, I packed our lives into cardboard boxes. "Mommy, where are we going?" Olivia asked at the airport, her teddy bear clutched tight in her arms. "Miami," I whispered. "Somewhere warm, somewhere new, somewhere we could finally be ourselves." When the plane landed, the salty air wrapped around me. The ocean stretched out like forever, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. I had bought us a house, not just walls and a roof, a home. White walls, glass windows that opened to the sea, a garden where Olivia could run barefoot. When we stepped inside, her eyes widened. "Is this really ours?" she whispered. I nodded. "Yes, baby, this is our home." That night, on the balcony, the waves crashed below us. The moon lit her small face, and I told her the truth. "I'm not just your mom. Years ago, I built a company. When I sold it, it gave us enough to never be afraid again." "Sweetheart, I'm a CEO." Her jaw dropped. Then she laughed. "So you're the boss?" I laughed through my tears. "Yes, I'm the boss. And from now on, I'll be the boss of our lives. No more hiding. No more begging. From this day on, we live free. We live honest. We live for us." The ocean roared below, as if it agreed. That night, for the first time in decades, I didn't feel like a disgrace. I felt reborn. When I cut them off, I thought I would feel guilty. Instead, I felt free. But freedom has its echoes. Within months, the perfect picture of the Clark family began to fall apart. Jonathan's investment firm collapsed. Caroline's perfect life cracked. The mansion, my father's pride, on the edge of foreclosure. For years, I had been the invisible glue. And without me, everything fell apart. At first, I felt satisfaction. A dark, bitter voice inside whispered, "They deserve this, every bit of it." But at night, alone, another voice came, a quieter one, asking, "Who are you, Madison?" If not the daughter they rejected. The calls started. My mother, her voice softer than I'd ever heard. "Madison, I didn't see. Maybe I didn't want to see. But now, I know what you've done. I'm sorry." I wanted to scream at her, to ask, "Why did you stay silent all those years? Why did it take losing everything to finally see me?" But instead of anger, tears came, not of pain, but of release. Then Jonathan, broken, humbled. "I should have thanked you long ago. I see that now." The brother who once rolled his eyes at me, now stripped of pride. And Caroline, her pride heavier than chains. No call, just a letter. 5 words. "I hope you're happy now." For the first time, I was. And then, the call I never expected. My father, William Clark, the man who had once roared that I was no daughter of his, called me from a hospital bed. His voice was weak, frail. "Madison, I was wrong. About you, about everything." My chest tightened. For years, I imagined this moment. In my dreams, I screamed at him. I threw his cruelty back in his face. I wanted him to hurt. But standing on my balcony in Miami, the ocean wind in my hair, Olivia's laughter rising from the garden below, I realized I didn't want revenge anymore. Revenge wouldn't heal me, but forgiveness might. I closed my eyes, let the tears fall, and whispered, "I forgive you, Dad." Silence. Then, a sob on the other end of the line. But forgiveness wasn't for him. It was for me. When I hung up, I felt lighter, as if I had laid down a burden I had carried all my life. Now, when I watch Olivia run barefoot through our garden, her laughter free, her smile unafraid, I know I made the right choice. We are free. We are whole. And the family that once cast me out, they finally see me, not as their disgrace, but as the daughter who stood when they all fell. But here's the truth. I don't need their recognition anymore, because for the first time in my life, I finally see myself. If you've ever felt rejected, if you've ever been told you weren't enough, I hope this story reminded you of your own strength. Please like this video if it resonated with you. Share it so others who need hope can hear it too, and tell me your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read your story. And if you want more storytelling like this, don't forget to subscribe and join this community where no one is ever truly alone. Love.